Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It is my great pleasure to welcome all of us to this session of the Writing Academy of Virtual Hub. I do believe very strongly that we're going to have a wonderful time at this session. My name is Adebiyi Fatusi. I'm a professor of public health and community medicine at the Obafemi Awolowo University in Ile-Ife and the immediate past vice chancellor of the University of Medical Sciences in Ondo. I do believe that, as I said, we're going to have a wonderful session today. Our topic is Decolonize Your Research. I think for all of us, particularly working in low and medium countries, that's very important. Even it is also getting increasing importance in high income countries because we all need to begin to look at this issue globally. I believe that there will be many questions in this session. So I would like to let you know that please put your questions in the chat box as they occur to you. Don't wait till the end of the session. The objective of this virtual conference are two. Firstly, that this platform will provide this platform will serve, to enrich our knowledge on the how and why of conducting quality research and publishing. And secondly, it will promote transdisciplinary manuscript writing collaboration between members. Again, let me remind you, please put your questions in the chat box. It is my pleasure to, at this time, introduce the speaker for this session. If you have the material for this, you may note a different name, but due to certain circumstances, today we'll be having one of the most enterprising researchers I have personally known. Professor Morenike Folayo Opong is a notable researcher, and she is the engine room behind the whole idea about this writing academy hub. And she's the immediate past director of the Center for Research at Obafemi Awolowo University. Prior to that, she was the dean of the Faculty of Dentistry at Obafemi Awolowo University. She has also played several important roles in HIV/AIDS research, in ethics research, and generally in the area of building capacity when it comes to research writing and research publication. She's particularly passionate about growing the capacity of other researchers, particularly early and mid-career researchers. And therefore, it is my pleasure today to welcome Professor Morenike Folayo Opong, who is a fellow of the Academy of Medicine, as he takes us through the topic, the colonization of our research. Professor Morenike, you are welcome.
I really thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for the kind introduction. I would also want to apologize in advance that I think I have an unstable network, and I'll work within my possible best to manage this. For this reason, I am not putting on my video, and I'll please encourage others not to put on their video just to be able to keep the bandwidth strong. Very briefly, I will be going through the topic decolonization of research. I had to come up at the last minute. I will use a lot of talk around my own work in the oral health fields to press on the points around the issue of the need for we as a collective in Africa to rethink the way we do research, to understand that our backgrounds, our colonized backgrounds, does influence our research and implementation and translation of our research, including what it means to teaching and practice, and how we need to do that differently if we really want to develop the continent based on the derivatives from the research. Please note that colonialism does impact health research, but the big thing about the translation of its impact to education and practices is that it is what we research. It is our finding from the research that is translated into what goes into educational materials, be it in the primary school, the secondary school, or even in tertiary educations. And it is what goes into policies and practices, and that is what we do. So once we do not understand that route of how colonialism influences our research and our research directions, then we would not know how to change in a way that we make our education and practices more powerful, such that it drives national development. What happens with colonization is that it gives little credence to indigenous knowledge and traditional systems. It overrides them as inferior, and it makes us chase after what is assumed to be superior, which is the knowledge generated from the North based on white supremacy. Okay, so we do have to find a way of strategically repositioning ourselves so that the information we generate can transform and promote health on the long run, but of course, every other thing, including the technology that we built. My first discussion around decolonization of research was about AI, the use of AI within the industry of oral health. And many of the things I said is, look, we already have a colonized system. We are in a new generation and the potential to change the trajectory of what we do with this AI. But sadly, we are not positioning ourselves into that space in a way that the AI can reflect what we do in Africa. And I gave one or two examples. For example, we are developing robots. The robots do not have African local languages. It still speaks the English, but of course, trust brilliant Chinese. They're already in that space. So the robot speaks, Chinese language, and it also respects their culture. And therefore, the robots that you'll be bringing into Africa to deal with the things and issues will continue to speak English. And how sadly this is, because I believe personally that because of the Eurocentric training, we think and our standard is Eurocentered. I think it's that informed the Japa syndrome that we have because we're always chasing. That is always the better. That is always the place to look for. And we're doing little in developing our country. So when we focus on decolonization, and much of it we've heard from the first day, the second day talk, we will be addressing inequality and exploitation and dismantling what is known as the white supremacy. One of the things we usually do when we're focusing on decolonization is also address the issue around colonization in research and publication. Research and publication is very important, and that's what Manuscript Talks is very focused on. Research and publication matters because it generates the evidence for decision making, but more than that, it gives evidence for solving real world problems. So what evidence are you generating to solve our own world problem? Like I noted, it also infused into our educational system. And therefore, the educational values that are generated through our educations and our training is based on what it is that we generate. Of course, it also matters. Research and publication very much matters for institution because through it, we get funding to support institutional development. So it matters what we're doing. And of course, at the end of the day, societal progress, we do know, and evidence has shown clearly that research, science, and technology drives. It is not the only thing. It does it in consonance with social sciences, in consonance with humanities, but it is critical in driving development. And for many of us, we've seen what happens in China today. Of course, we do want to do research and develop publications because even for we as researchers, it is part of our personal and intellectual growth. Let us look at publication. And when I start to talk about decolonization and where it matters, I'll link it to that. But the first thing we try to push is that we as Africans, we must do better. Why do we have to do better? When we do not publish into those spaces, in the places where publications are harvested, like WHO, UNAIDS, and global policies have to be made. When your publication is not there, they will have to use proxy information to make those decisions because policies have to be made. And I can tell you that even in Nigeria, when I was working on the National Oral Health Policy to develop it, there weren't evidence from Nigeria to be able to address the critical things that need to be addressed in the policy. I had to look for evidence from proxy places. And where's the proxy place? The closest proxy place where you get data in Africa is South Africa and Egypt. They are nowhere close to West Africa. So that becomes a problem. So what happens? This is the kind of thing we're seeing in terms of number of publications. If you look at the global number of publication worldwide, which is the purple, see where it is. When we look at Africa, the number of publication from Africa, which is the green line, and then you look at it with Australia, we are at the bottom. We are at the bottom. But you know what? Africa is not comparable to Australia. Australia is a continent of two countries, Australia and New Zealand. Africa is a continent of 55 countries. So a country of 55, a continent of 55 countries producing just enough publication equitable to a country of two, a continent of two, it's really poor publication. It's poor in terms of number. But why this becomes an issue is when you look at the next slide, when you're looking at the citation, field-weighted citation talks about the impact of this research. Australia, that were low in terms of the number, look at what it is when you see the field impact. Australia is the blue line. It is well above the average. And Africa, which is the green line, still stays below the average. So there's something definitely wrong. It means that even the manuscripts we are producing in terms of research, is not having the impact that it could have. If Australia, that we have the same number, is doing better globally, then there must be something we need to look inward. What is it? What is it that is affecting us? Okay, and we'll be looking at it. One of the things people start to think of is that maybe international collaboration matters. Guys, look at it. Africa is doing well in terms of international collaboration. Africa is doing well in terms of international collaboration. One of the things I think I heard yesterday that is very powerful is that what is it about our international collaboration? I'm just thinking where it is. I've been in so many places. I'm not sure if it's this platform. What is it that we're doing about our international collaborations that is such that we have as high international collaboration as Australia, yet our impact is lower than the global average? What is it about our international collaboration? And I want to talk about that. And there you start to see me introduce the concept of colonization and what this means for decolonization. In the world of dentistry, my colleagues and myself did this bibliometric analysis of publications in the dental world around the sustainable goal. And we looked at what was happening very clearly. What did we see? The collaborations were happening with colonial masters. The collaboration in Africa were the line of colonial masters. So if you're in Saudi Arabia, if you're in France, Senegal, you'll be collaborating with France. If you're in Nigeria, you're collaborating with UK. If you're in Liberia, you're collaborating with America. We were collaborating along the lines with colonial masters. We definitely understand that colonialism is about a lot more of extraction, not because they want to extract, but that is how the structure of the governing system is. It's a master, is a master-servant relationship, even despite the efforts of global health. And if you heard very much on the first day, you probably understand why my passion is why we have to go around the route of South-South collaboration to break the jinx of extraction and do a lot more co-production. Let me show this again, what extraction means and why you are seeing that kind of data that you saw. We definitely know that when we're in Africa, HIV is our problem. Okay? TB is our problem, malaria is our problem. Many times when I give this kind of talk, I said, look, you have problems, sell it and make income. Sell it and make income, but I can tell you that we're not selling. We are giving credence to other people. So look at HIV. It's a global story. HIV is our problem. It's a sub-Saharan African problem. But look at our profile of HIV. Where's the publication coming from? See the heavy dots. It's from Europe. Yet we, sub-Saharan Africa, that has the problem. See the dots. It's very thin and sketchy. Europe, Asia, They're the ones that have the heavy dots. Okay, let's go to malaria. Malaria is a sub-Saharan African problem. Once again, see the dots. The dots is so heavy in Europe. And they don't have malaria as a problem. They are the ones getting the award for getting vaccines for malaria. So what is happening? I'm almost wanting to put it to you that we're having a problem of extraction, where they're coming into the country in a way that we ourselves has let our guards down, and there's extraction. How many of us going to, PhD schools, for wherever we're going, and we collect our materials, data, there's nothing protecting. You are not even looking back when you're taking the data, and then they're using it for centuries. And you, the producer, gets one out of the publication, and they continue to produce 50 from those your data, and you are not acknowledged. Let's go to TB again. The same profile. TB is an African problem, but see where the publication is. This slide I acknowledge is from my colleague from African Citizen. And then when I made the presentation about oral health, I said, I do not doubt that we have this kind of profile. And I'll explain to you why I felt certain that that's the kind of profile we'll be dealing with. I showed this slide, which is about oral health, okay? The protocol was studying toothbrushing and night brushing, 21-day toothbrushing in school. It was funded by FDI. And in that study, which is looking at the author, look at the methodology. They were looking at the superiority of clusters of randomized trials of children in two countries, Indonesia and Nigeria. In Indonesia, whoever was the partner in Indonesia had to recruit 2,000 children and had to follow them up 21 days. There was the pre-intervention, post-intervention, 24 weeks intervention. See the load of work they did. And they generated results. Indonesia and Nigeria. However, look at the top slide. Who are the authors of this manuscript? 3 people. 3 people, UK, Switzerland, and Portugal, all in Europe. Nobody from Indonesia and Nigeria were co-authors of this paper. So where does the credit lie for a study and an outcome that actually happened in low middle income countries? This is one example from oral health. It's the same from this other study in oral health. And actually this paper I wrote to the journal and said, no, this is a wrong way to go, and you as journals have to be safeguards. This study talked about oral health in West WHO African region, Afro region. And they had 28 authors. Look at the list of authors. Only 2 of them is from Africa. 28 authors. And only 2, even one of them was the WHO regional officer that opened the gates into Africa for them. What is the problem with this one? And that is where I went to the issue of foreign gaze. When you continue to do that, studies in Africa by foreign, I'm not saying that we shouldn't do, this is not my story, but we're saying that we want collaboration and not the other way. We're not supposed to be data collectors, which is what you see is making that kind of profile happen, where the credits is going, we are generating the data, but the data cannot make impact for Africa because of this problem of foreign gaze, the interpretation of the findings. When the interpretation of the finding is from a foreigner who is not local, the interpretation will not address the problem because they do not understand the context of Africa. Read Sheya Biodun's paper on the foreign gaze. It is an excellent piece of paper. You must read it. It's a must read. So, not that we're not generating data. We are generating data as data generators. The Europeans are interpreting this data because they have the funding and they're giving us $2,000. But the money they make from that, your $2,000, is over $2 million from the outcomes of the research. They now stand and interpret the research, okay? They do stand, interpret the research. And then the interpretation cannot be well applied to your context because the interpretation is based on the foreign gaze. It is according to their own standard, according to their own position, according to their own superiority understanding of the context. And therefore, applying this to our own context then becomes out of place. So what is it? when we're talking about decolonization, we must be very conscious of the gatekeepers who also themselves will also understand the impact of colonization, including all these bodies of people. But you are here as a researcher. You must understand the impact of colonization. You must understand how to manage that colonization process in a way that it is positioned for you, for we on the continent to be quite healthy. And in positioning that, we have to get more engaged in the process of generating indigenous knowledge for health. My example here is my own effort at ensuring that we're starting to generate indigenous knowledge for oral health care. And what got me into this position? For years, epidemiological research continues to show that dental service utilization by the communities we serve is poor. I mean, we've generated it. It's not just 40 papers or 50 manuscripts, but we have not generated the reason why, using a cultural lens, the local lens. And therefore, for that reason, we continue to say, oh, come in. We've been saying this for years, but they're not coming into the clinic. It's the same thing with maternal health. We want them to come into the clinic to take skills-based attendance. If you look at the DHIS for Nigeria, for over how many years, it hasn't changed any significantly. They're not coming. And we know that the natural practice is that they give birth at home. So why aren't we doing something different to address that context? So what I started to look at is the cultural practices that might inform policies in a way that we can start to understand why they're not coming in. And we're starting to generate new evidence. And it's not that we're consulting with traditional people, local people, everybody outside of oral health, so that we can have fresh knowledge and get indigenous knowledge. And one of the things we found is that, yes, people, especially those with the Yoruba culture, they prioritize aesthetics. Yoruba, even in the proverbs and the songs, aesthetics is prioritized. However, because of that aesthetics prioritization, what we kind of seen is that there are home remedies. There are home remedies for oral health problems. And therefore, the Yorubas, as a cultural set of people, when there's anything that has to do with oral health, the first thing they go to is those home remedies rather than the hospital. The first thing they go to is those home remedies. Those home remedies, when they use it for most times, make it subacute. It reduces the intensity of the problem in a way that they can live with it. And unfortunately, in that context, they would only go to the hospital when things do not work. So it explains the reason why in the Southwest context, a lot more people come into the oral health clinic when the disease is at the late stage of the disease. If you understand that context, then you would use the context of culture to do your health promotion in a sensitive way, rather than continue to blame them. Oh, why are you always coming late? Because you understand how they respond to oral health problem. Aesthetics is the problem. Aesthetics is so big that it becomes a stigmatized issue, even in the proverbs that we use. When you have oral health problem, there is something around you that you're doing wrong and it's stigmatizing. So people might stay away because not having good oral health is stigmatized. They're not doing something wrong. So without generating those knowledge, it cannot get into the textbooks. It cannot get into the educational curriculum that teaches people to be able to address the needs, the local needs. And this is one of the things I also noted. Would you imagine that the first ever picture of a Black fetus as a medical illustration, a Black pregnant woman with a Black child, it only came, the first ever in the world was in 2021 by somebody that was a non-medic. He just did it. And then everybody in the world realized for the first time that this was the first time they were seeing a medical illustration for a Black pregnant woman with a Black fetus. All our textbook is white. Do you understand the context and the mind evolution that kind of image does? And this is the kind of thing we also talk in dental education. I don't see any dental textbook that has a Black man using chewing stick But what we've done is so in our Eurocentric dental education, trained people that it is toothbrush and toothpaste that is the way to go. Now the economies are bad. We can't even maintain the toothbrush and toothpaste. Fluoride-containing toothpaste is heavy. We haven't done research around the chewing stick and its effectiveness in oral health control. And we don't teach people about proper practices with chewing stick. We're so Eurocentric, toothbrush and toothpaste. And that is what we continue to preach, as if we cannot research properly in this and indigenize our education. Please raise your hand if you have seen any dental textbook that includes chewing stick and the way to use it appropriately as its content. So this is the kind of thing we're saying. Even our health education training curriculum or any, please once again note that my bias is that I'm an oral health educator, and this is why I'm in this way. It must contain those content from our research that can decolonize our training of our students, be it in health, be it in engineering, be it in education, whatever way we need the content to do that. And I love Patricia Nevi's paper that says, look, even we as educators must reflect and decolonize our minds to be able to teach appropriately. We must know that our own minds is colonized in a way that even the way we think is very white in its orientation. So we must decolonize. And very recently, we're doing this pieces of study. I think we have about 3-4 papers around it. In Southwest Nigeria, we have something called Jedi. It doesn't exist in the medical practice. This is something that has been on forever. And our recent study, where we garnished data, even 80% of our study participants believed in Jedi. That means it has nothing to do with socioeconomic status. Everybody believes Jedi is an health context. But we haven't studied it well enough to know what it means. I did my team then went to look at it, because when that context Jedi tends to allude that sugar is causing something, a gastrointestinal problem. And therefore, it promotes the reduction of sugar consumption. So I wanted to look at this Jedi thing. Does it protect against sugar consumption in a way that it can reduce the risk of tooth decay? This is the first that is looking at it. Because if you understand this, you can teach about Jedi as a protective and use it for education. And then it is culturally relevant. I can remember in my days in medical school, the kind of context and things we were talking about, even till today, I've never seen those conditions. And one of the things we found was that, yes, it wasn't a significant predictor, but it reduced people that believed in Jedi actually have reduction. When we looked at the odd ratio in sugar consumption, it just did not reach statistical significance. And so what are we talking about? With global health survive if we truly decolonize? Will global health continue to be the way it is if we truly decolonize? And I worked with a colleague and talked about decolonizing oral health is the way to go. It's a rights-based framework. It will change things. It will even change the way global health currently looks. It will bring equity into the equation. And like I said in the first day, it will likely move us more to South-South collaboration than the North-South. Or maybe we'll start seeing South-North, but it definitely would make the table a lot more equitable. On that note, I'll say thanks for listening. And I wanted to praise here that there's the ICASA award that is out there. I'll keep quiet now and hand over to the facilitator. Thank you very much. I'll hand over to the chair. Thank you.
Hello, thank you very much, Professor Morenike-Folayan, for that very lucid, beautiful, and very practical presentation, drawing examples from our environment. Before I go to highlight the key points, I know that Professor Tomori is online now. If you have some time, we'll ask him to take part of the time that we have not used. But let me go on to, let's do this as A and B session. Let's go on with this A session. There are 3 points I would like to highlight with what Professor Morenike-Folayan told us before we move on to taking questions. The first point is about the purpose of research. She highlighted that unlike what is the prevalent practice, where research is about publication and professional advancement, that research must first and foremost be about development. Research must provide the ground, the evidence that must drive development, be it policy, be it programmatic, be it even government agenda. That all of that will rest on research, and therefore we must keep that as our major focus in research. One other point she made that is important is about the nature of our collaboration. That our collaboration in Africa has continued to grow on the pathway of our old colonial history. And it is time to change that. Those in former British colony continue to collaborate with those in Britain and the rest of them, and the rest in the Senegal and other Francophone countries continue with France and the rest of the developed countries of Francophone lineage. However, and this takes me to the third point, that how will that change? That the number of critical steps that we need to take to make that change. One is by looking even at the nature, the construct of partnership and international relationship in research. We are collaborating, but the ownership of data, even though we generate, does not come from us and does not end up with us. It ends up there. That must change. You must change in terms of how credit for work that is done, the credit is shared. There must be changing in terms of what we do concerning the data. We must go from mere data accumulators to become people that interpret the data and tell our own story in the context of where those data truly come from. She also said we must reorient our mind, even as educators. We must look at problems in our environment, and she did draw a lot of experience from the oral health field. Some of the work they're doing, including works that can even be, if you like, transdisciplinary as they go on to things even like Ijaiye that she talked about, even though she started from the area of oral health. I can see that linkage. I want to thank Professor Funmilayo again for that excellent presentation. We have a couple of questions here. I would like to, I think the first major one the first one I would like to prop up before we ask Professor Tomori. I hope Professor Tomori is still online. Is the whole issue about the reason why?
Yes, I'm online now.
Maybe
Thank
I think
you, sir.
Prof is online. Maybe we'll take.
Yes. Okay, let's take Prof now. Welcome, sir. So let me quickly introduce Professor Tomori. I will have to do a very abridged version. If you have the material for the conference, you can read details about Professor Tomori, which in itself is a very abridged one for those of us who know him and for those of us who are his mentees everywhere globally. Professor Tomori is a foremost African virologist and public health leader whose career has been marked by pioneering contributions to understanding and control of infectious diseases across the continent. He has served formerly as a regional virologist for WHO African region, wherein he played critical roles in response to major outbreaks. He has been a relentless advocate for African-driven research and health policy reform. His unwavering commitment to integrating indigenous knowledge system into scientific inquiry and his call for self-reliance within African research ecosystem have positioned him as a leading voice in the movement to decolonize science. His contributions have been recognized globally, notably with the conferment of Nigerian National Order of Merit Award, which is the country's highest academic award, and many other awards at continental and global level. Join me as I invite Professor Tomori, the former president of Nigeria Academy of Science, Foundation Vice Chancellor of the Redeemers University here in Nigeria. Prof, you are welcome, sir.
With my just a second. I'm trying to share my slide. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Hello there, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
I can hear you, sir.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm
We can hear you, sir.
trying to get my slides on. By a swimming pool in an hotel in Lagos. Now, where is my share? Share. Yeah. Get that message out. I'm having some issues with the slide. Like, begin to talk now, actually. Can you see my slide?
Not yet, sir.
Hello, can you see my slides?
Not yet, sir. I think it must be coming on slowly.
Okay, I'm trying to share. I don't know what is happening. Can you see the slides now? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Not yet. I can't see it yet.
Hello, can you see my
I
slides?
can't see it yet, sir. Is there a way you could share you could send it by email to the organizers? Maybe they can project it from the back end while you start the topic, sir. Prof, sir, are you still there? Professor, are you still there, sir? Can anyone hear me?
No, he's not there. He's not there.
Okay.
He's dropped.
I think he's struggling to get on. I think
Okay,
we
he's
can
there.
quickly. Okay, all right.
He's there, but it is
Yeah, I'm
just
here, but somehow I can't see
his sound is not there.
We can't hear him.
I think network is particularly
You can't
bad
hear
if you
me?
are using TNF. Yeah, we can hear you, sir. We can hear you, sir.
But then you can't see my slides.
No, we can't.
But you cannot see my slides.
No, we cannot see your slide, sir.
Prof, sir,
Okay,
can you come without the slide?
Are you clicking on the share button?
All right. While Professor Tomori is working on getting the slide on, let's take a few of the questions. I would like to start with the question that talks about the issue of research. That one of the reasons why we have this challenge.
Yeah, I can talk
about
without
the
slides. Let me go ahead and talk.
okay. All right, Prof, go ahead, sir.
So let me talk without the slides. I will send the slides later. I thank you all for this opportunity. The first thing I said actually was to say, your group, which is I want to congratulate you for what you are doing, the Manuscript Hub Writing Academy, your commitment to
We have 18 moments. We have less than 18 minutes to finish. I think his internet is
Can
unstable.
we continue with the question, sir?
All right. Let's continue with the question. I would like to suggest to the organizers that can you get Professor Tomori to record his lecture and then share with the participants? I think it will have some important value to this whole conference, knowing his pedigree. So, the first question I would like Professor Funmilayo to tackle is this issue about how do we negotiate when the research fund is coming from the outsiders? How can we position ourselves to decolonize in that place where you seem to be naturally disadvantaged? There are a series of questions that revolve around that on the platform. I'd like you to take that first.
And thank you very much for those people that asked that question. Excellent question. I think it's two things. Once, I know in Nigeria, there's a position that allows any international collaboration to ensure that the lead of that research is a local. I think what happens many times is that we become the lead as local, but we're not lead in intellectual property. And then we end up being data collectors. And of course, once you're not bringing your intellectual property onto the table, you're excluded in other benefits. Of course, you gain the $1,000, $2,000. I mean, if they really love you, maybe $20,000 per month, but you lose out from the $200 million industry that single research could otherwise have generated. How do we do things differently? As a local PI, put your intellectual in. That means you do not receive completed protocols. I tell you, two things that many Africans do not know. Many in those high institutions, A-rated in industry cannot become a professor until they have done and shown evidence of global health research that they did in Africa and Asia. So they are not doing you a favor, you're the one actually doing them a favor. Many of you do not know that. And therefore you go on that table as a beggar rather than being the one that owes the ace. In effect, when they come with a protocol, you do not accept a finished protocol. You will take a protocol and intellectually impute your issues into it. In which case, whenever that research is done, it must have a local context so that its translation is of benefit for your country. One of the greatest things I've seen from my colleagues in Zimbabwe when they do these things, they never export samples. If there is anything that you want to do with the samples from my country and we do not have the capacity to then build the capacity locally, including coming to buy the machines and the diagnostics tools and the analysis tool and put it in the country. Why is that brilliant? That is brilliant because that capacity that is built is left in the country and it can be used to build other capacities. Many of us sell away this power. And what we do is we export a sample, export the data. Sadly, we don't have access to them once it's gone, not even the data you generated. And therefore we lose it on, I'm sorry, I'm a Christian, on a pot of porridge. So I think that's the first thing in terms of paradigm change. When that protocol comes, you must put intellectual property in it. You do not collect a finished protocol. You would address the protocol in a way that the context of the protocol is a win-win thing. That way you can generate data that is relevant to your local context. And therefore you can apply the findings for the local context. And when it comes to the local context, you become the PI of that paper. That means you wrote the manuscripts. Not that they write the manuscript and just give you -1 out of 10. So that paradigm change happens when you have something to bring to the table. So you must invest in bringing your capacity to the table, and therefore you can argue intellectually. And that brings the respect, but never sell. Stop selling our data on the porridge of on a pot of porridge. I think that in its way answers. It's a summary answer. But of course, Professor Fatusi, I know you're brilliant also. Please, if there are other thoughts that you have, please add it to the thinking. Thank you. Over.
Thank you, Professor Funmilayo. Let me emphasize what you said first before I go to other things. The issue about bringing intellectual competence and component, and that should not stop at the level of the protocol. It must be that when the idea about generating titles or generating the papers that could be written from that project, you also come to say, look, this is one area that I think, because if you put that area down, they will look up to you to drive it. It also means you have competence in being able to do analysis or have a partnership. Because many times that's what happens, because we can't analyze that data at the level of expertise. When they have analyzed, maybe they've written, let them just add my name. So that kind of opportunity to say, look, even if I don't know all I need to know at the beginning, can I build capacity? Can I build partnership? In fact, you can put that as part even of the protocol to provide some funds around those kind of capacity building. The third dimension that I think is also important is that in Africa, there is this phenomenon of hiding everything and keeping it to your chest. You just getting your first research fund. There are people who have gotten 10. When you speak to them and say, this is what had come to me. Can you help me? Look, can you guide me? People can then tell you, look, don't take this. This is what you should ask for. The fourth thing I would like to say is, in the protocol, also negotiate for the ownership of the data. You know, so many of the work we've done, we'll be like, okay, we are going to publish this 1, 2, 3 works because the funder needs that. But after that, we own this. You can publish our own. You can publish your own. We can collaborate. So the data does not reside with them. It resides with both of you under an agreement that is signed. So I think those are some of the things that I think we all must learn to do. It comes with time, with experience. You know, so don't take all our word as if that's how we started. But the truth is that because the other people have gone before you and they have learned, you don't need to go through the same painful step. But you can start on their shoulder and move ahead better than your predecessors. All right, let me move on to the next question around this whole issue of colors. Somebody asked a very interesting question. I think I will read it directly. You say, how do you undo joining a project which may not recognize your institution on the publication list, but requires data from your facility and wants to pay you in local currency based on your academic salary? I think there are like 3 questions in this one. Let Funmilayo start.
Mr. Excellent question. But once again, I think it boils to where we started. 2 things. If you're a junior person, get mentors. Don't get into an agreement on your own. Many places, I know institutions are bringing capacity, something like my IFE, we have Central Office of Research. Go, let's negotiate on your own, because many times you are cheated. It's a normal phenomenon. Even you as Africans, if you are the other end, you will do the same. You will cheat. You will cheat them of their rights. It's a human phenomenon. Don't negotiate as self, negotiate as institution. And therefore use your institutional instrument to negotiate on your good. For example, when we're talking about material transfer agreement, Nigeria's material transfer agreement is one of the strongest in the world. If you have material transfer agreement and you don't take that national and go through the ethics committee so that they are the ones speaking for you on the material transfer agreement, it's not you, it's the country's demand. If they need you, I tell you, you don't understand what I'm talking about when I say you have the power. It is you. They need you. You don't need them. They need you. You only get party from the things. If you don't understand where you're coming from, you can't negotiate. So go under the cover of your institution to negotiate. The second thing is also because they need you, you can negotiate. Many times you think you need them and you don't want to lose the $1,000, whereas if you negotiate better, you get $20,000. Don't be afraid. Don't come from that point of fear. Come from the point of power and negotiate on the terms of equity. Once you use that word, they're afraid because they understand the implications. But when you don't, they will say, well, it was you that took the decisions. They were transparent with you. And of course, I will go back again. You cannot negotiate on the terms of equity if you're going to go running in that place as a data collector rather than bringing your intellectual property. Once you are bringing your intellectual property, they bow and respect because they cannot do without you. I will keep quiet here. I can't remember the entire spectrum of the question, but also give it over to the facilitator, the chair, and I think he will be bringing us to the end of the session. Thank you, sir.
We have about 3 minutes more. Thank you. I will no, but yeah, about 2 minutes more. Let me use those 2 minutes to complement the answer she has given. Look, I think this whole decolonization starts with a mental image of yourself. Who do you see yourself to be? And can you sit on the table and negotiate from that strength of who you think you are as an equal that can have capacity and can bring things to the table? But number two is this. Institutional policy also needs to help us. Our Professor Volanya has talked about letting our institutional platform and its mechanism talk for us. But see, sometimes those mechanisms, I have 1 more minute more. Sometimes those mechanisms also need to change. And I'll give you a practical example. Sometimes when we have to negotiate, they will say, all right, what proportion of time are you using? You say 20% of your time. And then they will want to base it on your salary. You know, by the time you bring out your Nigerian salary, even if they want to pay you in dollars, it becomes a ridiculous amount. But it just can protect you. So one of the things we did in our institution in Unimed is that we have a research policy that says if you are a senior lecturer, this is the equivalent of the amount that should be used in negotiating. Because what they will ask you is show us the policy. So in the policy, we know what you're handling. That's fine. But we know what you're handling is not what you're worth. So our research policy says at every level, what is the amount, the equivalent amount that you will have earned if things were in a more globalized world. And so that way, even if you bring the policy, you can get something better for yourself. We are at the point of stopping now. I wish we can take more questions. But I want to thank you very much. I can see well over 300 at a point in time I saw, that 339 at a time by 354. I want to thank you very much for participating in this conversation. But please don't let it stop here. The whole battle about decolonization is a battle that must continue. Please pass on the message to your colleagues. Please learn more about this. Your institution to also find a forum where you can bring together people, senior people, junior people to discuss this. Again, I want to congratulate this academy for the exciting and wonderful job it is doing, and to particularly congratulate the team lead of that group, Professor Muyombe, who we have been privileged to benefit from our experience today. Thank you very much, and God bless you all. Bye.
Thank you so much, Professor Fatusi. We appreciate your contribution. Now we'll proceed on our water break. For 5 minutes, you to stretch your back, take water, and then we'll regather here by 2 on the dot. Thank you.
Dr. Henry, please, can you start?
Good afternoon to everybody. Might be morning for some of you or evening, but a warm welcome to this very exciting session. My name is Henry Nagai. I work as a medical doctor in infectious disease specialist. I've managed large-scale public health program over the last 20, 25 years. I'm very happy and especially presiding over this session as the chair of the session. The session is being named Broader Public Health and Social Determinants. I'm speaking to you live from Accra. I live and work here in Ghana. This session will be exploring how biological infrastructure and psychosocial factors shape health in Africa. And it will explore different thematic areas, including stroke among people living with HIV. That will be done by Ijaiye Napoleon. We will also look at the barriers to the use of diagnostic tools and look into that. And that will be led by our colleague, Larry Ngundu. Gandu. We will also look at dating violence, which we shall be led through that by our colleague Tolu Walise's Samson Adekoya. We would then move on to looking at some of the biochemical profile of weaned pigs. That will also be taken care of by Funmilayo Grace Adebiyi. Then we will zoom into a look at the impact of intimate partner violence as I go through the process. And this will be led by Esther, Israel. We would be moving straight into action now. And let me invite our colleague, Ijaiye Napoleon. Ijaiye, can you start, please? Is Ijaiye online? We do not have Ijaiye's slides with our colleagues pushing the slides for us. So if Ijaiye, you are online, you can start.
He's not online, sir.
Okay. Ijaiye, if you are not online, you can still come in probably after we have had Adekoya presenting. But let me move to Larry and Gandu. Can we have Larry's slides? And Larry, if you can introduce yourself and take it away.
Okay, thank you. And good day, everyone. My name is Larry Ngandu. I'm a biomedical scientist, currently working with Right to Care Zambia. I'm as well a student in Masters in Operations and Supply Chain Management. Okay, so what happens when we put Genexpert machines in place, but do not support them to work at full capacity? In my study, we looked at 2 rural hospitals using the same Genexpert platform, that is Muyombe and Isoka. Muyombe achieved a utilization of 71%, while Isoka operated at 166%. Why such a gap? In Muyombe, nearly 1 in 4 patients missed testing, mainly due to stockouts, machine downtime, as well as power outages. Meanwhile, Isoka ran a 24-hour shift and prioritized their testing better, exceeding the utilization target. So this is not about the staff, it's about systems. When Genexpert is underused, viral load results come late, patients wait longer for treatment, and TB spreads. But when used well, like in case of Isoka, results are quick, linkage to care is fast, and resources are balanced in terms of test kits as well as staffing. So utilization is not just a metric, It's a life-saving signal in diagnosis as well as epidemic control. This research highlights that we do not just need to invest in the machine, but we also need to invest in utilization. That means better forecasting, strong level agreements with the vendors, as well as piloting flexible shifts, especially in low volume sites. The machines are there, the staffs are ready. But if we do not connect the policy to performance, we'll keep seeing the underutilized potential. This means the data that I'm presenting right now is not just about laboratory. It's about the saving lives faster, smarter, and sustainably. Thank you, and over, Chair.
Thank you very much, Larry. And as we listen to the presentations, if you have any questions, kindly go to the questions and answers tab and just put in your questions so we can answer them at the end of the presentation. We will move on to Funmilayo. Grace, can we have her slides on, please?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Funmilayo Adebiyi from Department of Animal Science in the Ibadan. As our livestock industry moves away from antibiotics in animal feeds, farmers are now turning to nature for alternatives, but not all natural additives used by these farmers have been properly validated. That's why we decided to investigate lime fruit juice, which is rich in bioactive compounds with potential as a natural feed additive. In our study, we investigated the impact of lime juice supplementation on blood profile of weaned pigs. We conducted a 6-week randomized control trial using 40 crossbred weaner pigs. Pigs were allotted to 4 groups, receiving 0, 15, 20, and 25 ml of lime fruit juice per kg of feed. We collected blood sample at the end of the trial and analyzed for haematology and serum biochemistry. Next slide, please. Now let's look at our findings. All blood parameters remain within normal physiological ranges, confirming safety of lime fruit juice used in this study. It is interesting to note that the mean corpuscular volume increased in the 15 ml lime fruit juice group, suggesting better red blood cell function. Immune blood markers also show positive trends, with monocyte increase at 25 ml, while neutrophil rose at 15 ml per kg. Serum biochemistry results showed no changes in the liver and kidney function, further confirming safety of lime fruit juice used in this study. However, globulin levels significantly increased at 15 ml, supporting immune-enhancing effects of lime fruit juice. In conclusion, lime fruit juice supplementation is not only safe for weaned pigs, but potentially beneficial for blood health and immune function. This research provides farmers with a validated natural feed additive that supports animal health without antibiotics, thereby contributing to sustainable livestock production. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Funmilayo Grace, for your presentation. We'll move straight away to Esther. Esther Ohiseghame, Israel. Can we have her slides, please?
Thank you very much, sir. My name is Esther Ohiseghame, Israel, a postgraduate student in the University of Ibadan, and I work at Belt University of Technology. I'd like to tell you a story about Tina. Almost every day, she watches the fight between her parents. Most times, she's startled from her sleep. She cowers in terror. Sometimes with a sense of helplessness, she sobs aloud, "Daddy, Daddy, please don't kill my mommy." She's not the one being beaten, but she feels the pain. This is the plight of thousands of children who countless times have witnessed violence between their parents. Tina is not just a primary victim, but a silent victim of intimate partner violence that is suffered by 1 in every 3 women globally. Existing studies have looked at the consequences of intimate partner violence on women, with little attention on its impact on children and how it diminishes their capabilities. My study focuses on the impact of intimate partner violence on children using Amartya Sen's capability approach. Next slide, please. Utilizing qualitative approach, I conducted 32 in-depth interviews with survivors who told their stories and how their experiences affected their children. My study finds that intimate partner violence is a significant source of capability deprivation for children of survivors. One notable area of deprivation is education. Intimate partner violence undermines children's ability to learn without distractions and interruptions. Participants reported low academic performance and dropouts due to loss of school days and lack of concentration in class. I found that intimate partner violence prevents children from building healthy relationships. Particularly, some developed antisocial and became so hostile to their mothers, siblings, and friends. A particular participant said, "Each time I look at my children, I cry because they have become so aggressive just like their father." Another said, "With little provocation, my children run after each other with knives." Other capabilities affected the ability to live healthy, to enjoy emotional well-being, and to be free from every form of violence. In conclusion, intimate partner violence negatively affects children's academic, social, and psychological well-being. In order to help children like Tina regain their freedom to lead happy and flourishing lives, there is need for psychosocial intervention for children who grow up in toxic homes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Esther, for that poetic presentation. Brilliant. Let's move on to Comfort. Comfort, Akani, can you be ready and take it away? Your slides are on.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Comfort Oyindamola Akoni. I'm from Olabisi Onabanjo University. The topic is artificial intelligence-based early detection of developmental delays in children with sickle cell disease. Imagine a child with sickle cell disease facing developmental delays that goes unnoticed for years, thereby limiting the life potentials of the child. What if an AI tool can help to reduce the life trajectory of a child with sickle cell disease? In Africa, we have millions of children with sickle cell disease. So the early detection of the developmental delays it causes is a challenge I'm tackling. Currently, in the low resource settings of Africa, the screening methods are very slow, they are imprecise, and they are not even accurate sometimes. So developing AI to help with the prediction is going to be fast and reliable. Next slide, please. So what is the DevSickleNet? What is it about? How was it built? Next slide, please. DevSickleNet is a multimodal deep learning model that was actually built with 300 samples. The samples were generated had 3 parameters, which includes the clinical data, the caregiver reported data, and the developmental milestones. These parameters were carefully selected after reviewing several iterations to know the contributory factors to developmental delays. So the caregivers data includes the socioeconomic status, while the clinical data, the steady state PCV of the child, the history of the crisis, and so on. The developmental data means that the developmental milestone over the period of the first 12 months of the child life was recorded. So all these were fed into DevSickleNet to train the data. So after training, it is said to have an accuracy of 85.4%. This after it's actually detected that of all the positive predictions, the socioeconomic status of the caregiver played a very important role. Currently, we are working on getting more data sets all across the sub-Saharan part of Africa to help us improve the accuracy of the model and to validate the model, after which we'll be deploying this model on mobile phones. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Esther. A comfort for that AI piece. Great. Again, if you have questions, put them down. We'll have enough time to explore and get our colleagues to provide more information on their presentations. We move to Dikoya, our last presenter. Can you introduce yourself and take it away? Let's have his presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Toluwalasha Dikoya from Lagos State University, Assistant Lecturer in Lagos State University, and I'll be presenting a topic that is on the screen. For many of us joining this live, whenever we hear the reports of violence in romantic relationship, one question always comes to mind: what could have happened? Especially if it concerns people that we know personally. But here is the truth that we rarely acknowledge, that before the first insult, the first slap, sexual coercion, or emotional detachment, we often uncover a silent wound, one that began even before the relationship started. Dating violence, which is not limited to physical abuse, but also includes sexual abuse, emotional, psychological abuse, is not a private issue. It is actually a public concern, but it has been woven intricately into the fabrics of human romantic relationship. This cross-sectional study, which was carried out in Lagos due to the rising reports of dating violence and the complex relationship scripts, seek to answer a subtle yet powerful question. Could dating violence among young adults be linked to unspoken pain of childhood? Research has shown that there are several unspoken pain that children report, but this study focuses on childhood emotional deprivation, which is characterized by a child feeling unseen, unheard, and their emotional needs are not met. Majorly because their parents are unavailable, the parents think that the children are overly dramatic or overbearing and perceive their vulnerability as weaknesses. Now, these children also internalize a clear message, which is their feelings or their needs do not matter. An important message that would one day also shape the way they would love or give love or receive love in later adult years. Next, the finding of this study revealed that childhood emotional deprivation was significantly associated with dating violence. These findings will further suggest that childhood emotional deprivation predating relationship. Next slide. Predating relationship violence may explain why some adults would experience or perpetrate violence. Now, if there is an ounce of truth in this, it will mean that we could break the cycle of dating violence even before it starts, and that's if we act early. And therefore, we are recommending that we establish and implement emotional support programs in schools, religions, and in community. Now, specifically for schools, we are going to train teachers on how to detect children that are emotionally deprived or emotionally neglected, and also to offer what is known as psychology first aid kits to these children. Also, we also employ schools to be able to create a school-based mental screening for children. It could be annually, it could be biannually, to be able to detect for early detection, and also to create an on-site psychological support in form of school counselors for intervention. Also, we want communities and also religious institutions to be able to report legally, parents that are negligent in meeting the emotional needs of their children after having spoken to them often, to the right child protection agency. In conclusion, every emotionally valued child today is likely to become an adult that will less likely harm or be harmed in romantic relationship tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Toluwalase Dikoya. That is brilliant. We are at a point where we have some questions, and we have some time to explore these questions. At least we have some 10 minutes to explore these questions. My first question, which has been sent in by Oluchi, this question goes to Comfort. Comfort, there are many sickle cell disease patients. How do you think that your AI product will reach those in rural areas? This question is directed at Comfort.
Yeah. Okay. So it will reach the people in rural area by actually collaborating with the local clinicians, and also we'll be deploying the model in such a way that we can they can download it on any mobile device, and it won't even need internet access for them to use this model.
Okay, so your internet, your model can work when internet is off. Great, and I will be watching this space. I'm very excited by your presentation. There is another question that is coming in and directed at Esther. It goes like, may you deliberate on how research approach, may you deliberate on the research approach you utilized and the data analysis techniques that you employed in your study? That is Esther, briefly.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, it's a qualitative research, and it was snowballing, and it was proposed. Then they
probably have another machine with the microphone on, so there is a feedback. Please go ahead and explain how your technique has been and what challenges you face. Hello, Esther. Can you hear me? Hello, Esther.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Please go ahead with your answer.
It is a narrative and analytical study. So I allowed the participants tell their stories, and they were thematically analyzed using Atlas TI. Okay, for the challenges I encountered while gathering the data, being a sensitive issue, there were a number of times I had to postpone the interview because some of the participants cried a lot, and we had to fix other days for the interview. And whenever they weren't comfortable, we also agreed on the better time to meet and place to meet. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The other question that has come through is to Adikoya, that the study is about young adults, but you mentioned children and several aspects of your narrative. Can you clarify it?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. The major research...
Let's zoom in on the study population.
Okay, thank you very much. The major research question here is to find out if dating violence among young adults can be linked to unspoken pain in childhood. That's childhood emotional deprivation. So that's what this study is looking at. That can dating violence among young adults currently be linked to a lack of emotional neglect or the fact that they were being emotionally deprived in while they were growing up in early childhood? Thank you. That would answer that first question. And for the second question that you asked, I didn't get that, sir.
No, I think that was the question. It was to do with
okay. Thank you.
Population. Thank you. Yes. The question that I have here, the next one is directed at Grace. What lessons can you draw from your findings in animal health that could inform, interdisciplinary approaches to human nutrition and resilience? Any thoughts on that?
Okay, thank you very much, sir. From our findings, Hello, please, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Grace. Just
Okay, so,
look at,
so,
are there
so
any
from our,
interdisciplinary approaches that will connect to human nutrition and resilience?
okay, so from our findings, we supplementation from the first, by raising animal or natural feed additive like lime fruit juice, we were able to discover that this could enhance their health and immunity. Definitely, it will improve the quantity and the quality of animal protein available for consumers. So in regions where undernutrition is prevalent, access to high-quality animal protein can be a critical tool for improving human health outcomes, especially among vulnerable groups like children and elderly. So in that, if we look at it from one health approach, we can easily say we can collaborate with human nutritionists or public health practitioners. Because from these findings, we can see that the plant-based bioactive from lime fruit juice may offer a dual benefit for both animal and human health. And this can be like an affordable strategy to combat chronic diseases and undernutrition. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we have another question here to comfort. How can we assure, or how can we ensure, sorry, that the development and deployment of AI tools for early detection are ethically grounded, culturally sensitive, and accessible across diverse African health systems? You've answered the last part of it, but how do we ensure that this AI product is ethically grounded and culturally sensitive? Comfort?
All right, thank you very much for the question. It's actually very important to have a very ethically grounded and culturally sensitive model. So for the cultural sensitivity part is to collaborate with the local clinicians, like I said before, and even with the communities, so that we explain it in such a way that it will reflect the challenges they are going through, and we also attend to their expectations. Then we make sure that the data is actually collected, like there is a representation of the data all across different parts of Africa, most especially the sub-Saharan Africa, because that is where sickle cell disease is more prevalent. So if we have samples of data all across this part, the bias will be reduced in the model. And also for the ethical consideration, is going to follow the normal ethical protocol for medical research. It will be anonymized. Then, and apart from that, we collect consent. Yes, consent from the parents. Thank you very much.
Okay, that's good feedback, and I would like to add that as you look at the product and what the type of algorithms are, and using a database that is from our environment in Africa. If you have large databases from different countries, that could help in training the AI to make sure that whatever outcomes comes are really very useful and productive. That's a good thing to do, and that helps a lot in answering the various needs of our sickle cell disease patients. Other question that is through that is directed at Larry. How might partnerships between public health, engineering, and supply chain experts, be leveraged to overcome the many infrastructure challenges that we have, like power outages, etc. What are your thoughts?
Thank you, sir. Sure. Collaboration in this aspect can really help streamline some of the challenges that are being faced. For example, collaborating with the supply chain specialists, this could really help service delivery personnel to train them in the aspect of supply chain management in terms of inventory management, proper forecasting. So this could give them a good baseline in terms of their commodity management. When it comes to like public health, as we know, the Genexpert plays a crucial role in epidemic control of diseases like viral load, HIV, sorry. So this could also provide a great opportunity to have partners come on board to procure backup systems. Because as we can see to say, these interruptions really, they don't, in short, they don't allow the interventions that are being put to see their full capacity. So collaboration in this regard can really help close up some of these gaps in terms of the supply chain as well as the power outages. Thank you. I hope that answers that.
Yes. Thank you. It's a complicated issue, but I think that having this interdisciplinary approach will go a long way to help to remove the barriers that have been mentioned. We have Ifeoluwa Adebiyi, who hands is up. Can you unmute and then ask your question?
Those that have hands up will not be able to unmute. They can't communicate, so they have to put their questions in the chat box.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. So let's move back to the chat box. And there is a question that is looking at if there is a link between the dating violence and early child outbreaking challenges. If you have been able to look at that aspect as well.
Okay, thank you.
Question goes, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. Once again, thank you for the question. The study was able to reveal that childhood emotional deprivation was significantly associated with all 5 dimensions of dating violence: detachment, sexual abuse, humiliation, coercions. So from this study, and amongst the participants that we selected and administered this questionnaire to, we were able to see that there is a link. However, we all understand the limitations in interpreting correlational studies. We can interpret directionality and I may not be able to interpret causality, but there's a direction, and it's a positive relationship showing that as childhood emotional deprivation increased, dating violence also increased. So yes, from this study, we can say that there is a link between childhood emotional deprivation and dating violence. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that insight. There is one other question. It's to do with the intimate partner violence research. And the question is that consent is a must, whether consent is a must, and how was consent obtained for children who were interviewed?
Please, I didn't hear the question.
The question is that is consent a must in your research or in intimate partner violence research like you have done? And if so, how was consent obtained in this case?
I can't hear you, sir. The network.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Hello, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Hello, sir.
Can you hear me?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, I think you may have a challenge from your side. You are not able to hear me. Can you hear me now?
Hello, sir. I can't hear you well, sir.
It's a problem with our internet, sir. So let's move on.
Okay. All right. So let's go on to another question. And this is to look at Esther. How can insights from your social work, pediatric health and education be integrated to develop, a comprehensive trauma-informed care models, to support children that are exposed to intimate partner violence?
Thank you for that question. I wanted to see integrating insights from social work, pediatric health, and education will be so important in providing comprehensive and multidisciplinary trauma-informed models that support children exposed to intimate partner violence, and also to break the cycle of trauma. All these three professions can work together, share knowledge on trauma-informed care. There are specific contributions they have. Looking from the social work, they provide safety planning, counseling, and family support. They can provide referral as well. Now, the pediatric health will be so useful in screening for signs of trauma in children. And they can also provide medical care and also mental health referrals, like referring to children to clinical psychologists who can take care of their mental well-being and properly put them through psychological therapy. For education, they provide safe learning environment, not just safe environment, but physically and emotionally safe environment. Also provide emotional support for children and teachers training, because teachers have to be trained on trauma-informed care. Everyone working in that school will be on the same page. Now, for the integrated models, believe these professionals can work together. They can be in a network where they plan, then implement, care collaboratively. They can access the needs of these children and also communicate with one another, share information ethically with the consent of maybe the caregiver, most of the caregiver actually, because the children may not be able to consent, but the caregiver should be put into the picture. Now, we could also have community-based centers where we can have these professionals together and the child can access all the necessary support from that center. Could have the pediatric clinic, a social worker, a clinical psychologist, and maybe a license officer from the school who can connect children who have issues, maybe emotional issues, will be referred to such centers, and there will be monitoring, because trauma in healthcare has to do with monitoring. See that the child heals, see if the child is progressing. They will have to check, they have to be check-ins on the children to know if they are actually healing. Because it's when they are able to get this support, and they will be able to heal, and the cycle of trauma will be interrupted. Thank you.
Okay, and in this particular study, how did you obtain informed consent, if you did?
I did obtain consent. I got ethical clearance from the University of Ibadan Science Ethical Clearance Committee.
Okay, and it's just to zoom in, because the study population in terms of children. So practically, how did you do that?
I didn't interview children. I interviewed their mothers.
Great. Thank you for your feedback. There is one other question that goes to comfort. we have one of our participants who wants to talk about payment, even at this time. That how do you see the contribution of the population in terms of paying for the service? Should your AI product becomes viable at that level? It might be too early question for you, but what are your thoughts?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. For the contribution of the population in terms of payment, we are trying to ensure equity. So doing that, we need to actually collaborate with NGOs or the government bodies to provide this service in minimal or at no direct cost to the family members. Thank you. Okay, I think it's two questions. Apart from the population, the contribution of the population, you asked one other. I can't remember, please.
I think you answered the first question. So it's about the technology reaching the rural population.
Oh, okay. I thought this one is like a two-in-one question. Thank you very much.
No, that is fine. Yeah. The one other pending question is about the technology. Larry, you talked about some of the barriers. Now, when you look at the supply chain systems that we have, in the way you look at this study, what can you say is one key take home that you would like to let those that have been in the supply chain area, especially in the use of diagnostics tool, should take home?
Okay, thank you.
Especially looking at our environment, large areas, of our respective countries in Africa are resource constrained.
For sure. Supply chain has really been a tricky topic when it comes to our settings, especially in Africa, drilling down to Zambia as well. So the key here is there's what we can control, and then there's what we cannot control in terms of the national level issues, that is the actual procurements of the supply chain. But then what can be controlled is the knowledge sharing. So there's really need to invest in training, especially the service level staffs, on proper management of the commodities. Let me say in inventory management, where there is a better understanding in terms of the quantities they need, the storage conditions to avoid wastages, as well as to minimize stockouts as much as possible, when possible, if at all central stores has. So when we share this knowledge with these, we'll create a good information for forecasting, even at national level. Because one thing I've also observed in supply chain is sometimes there's data issues that affect the national quantification. So when we impart knowledge in the service providers at lower levels, will create a good foundation even for a strong data that can be used for quantification. So this is one aspect we can control, because the pipeline and these other issues, it's really a different topic altogether. So my take home is, let's concentrate on the things that can be controlled with minimal resources, yet having a very huge impact in our supply chain system, especially in Africa, because we do also depend a lot in donors when it comes to our supply chain systems in the health sector. So if we look at what happened, this also disturbed the expected deliveries of the commodities that are essential in our day-to-day in our hospitals when there was the stop work orders. So to control that, we need to also put in methods that will ensure resilience as well as agility in our supply chain. So this is a call to policymakers, to government bodies to just try and take a step back to look into our system and also provide solutions. And I'm glad today, since we're talking about research, which should bring development, so we can invest in these research and development practices. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Larry, to hear your thoughts on this, especially when it comes to looking at Genexpert and its various ways that we can adapt and use the supporting systems for point of care diagnosis activities. There's a question here for you again, Larry, that have you explored the use of TB Click, DICE tool or QI tool to see how further the optimization of Genexpert labs can be? Do you have any thoughts on this?
Okay, thank you. That's an interesting one. I believe these are quality improvement methods that needs to be employed in order to just ensure efficiency in our operations. Different laboratories do implement different quality improvement projects just to smoothen their operations. And thank you very much for that question, because it also brings in, that control to say we need to be doing quality improvement projects as well as research just to improve our Genexpert utilization. I think it's all in sync. Quality improvement projects as well as research, they all kind of work in tandem to just try and improve our operations. Thank you.
Thank you for your answer. There's a question for Comfort. This is just, I think it's a thought expressing, how cost effective these potential AI screening tool would be. And, it's possible scale up in sub-Saharan Africa. Any thoughts on that, Comfort?
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
So the participant is asking about whether the AI tool will be cost effective, and it's potential scale up to sub-Saharan Africa countries.
Yes, it's related to the previous question I answered. So we'll be working on making it we'll be working on encouraging equity, so it will be cost effective. It will be provided at like a minimal cost, because we aim to actually partner with NGOs and even the government bodies to include this in the normal pediatrics clinics, so in the healthcare setup. Thank you.
Good. I will also add Comfort, just because I work in that area as well, that this will be a good thing is if in the training of the model, if there are specific local language options that can be explored as well. But I'm sure that you and your team will be looking at these that evolving phase of the AI for healthcare platforms that we have. Great. There's a question here for Esther. Esther, whether you've signposted, those you find in your IPV work to mental health services or people who could support emotionally, whether in your study you had this for study participants?
All right, thank you very much, sir, for the question. You know, for any child to be able to connect with a service provider because they are children, they can't make decisions on their own. Their mother, who is the non-abuser, has to consent. So what I did was educate them on the services available. And for one or two was ready, I was able to at least connect, but following up, I couldn't follow up on some of them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I know that we have the evaluation form that will be filled, so please remember to be able to fill it at the end of our program. Do we have any more questions? I'm checking. The other question is whether the recording, whether the webinar will be recorded and available, and the answer is positive yes. Yes, it will be available. But please make sure that you can go through your evaluation so that you can receive a link to be able to access these very important and exciting presentations that we've had from our colleagues. Just the last question, the link between blood groups and drug resistance and chronic disease, and would this study be able for undergrad project work? And I think that this is a general question that one of our attendees is posting, but I'm sure that you can direct these to any of our academic teachers and professors, all of us here, to assist with. You can send these to the main email box, and I'm sure the team, as we go through these abstract sessions, can deal with. I am excited, very much excited to have chaired this particular section. And I am looking forward to checking on all of you who have made these presentations. Larry and Grace and Esther Comfort and Toluwalasi. It's nice to see these very innovative presentations that took our minds to AI, matters of nutrition, and matters of barriers when it comes to our diagnostic tools, and looking at intimate partner violence. I think that matters to do with dating when it comes to violence, and all the things that came out shows how innovative you have been in looking at these. And I want to thank you for making yourselves available, and the various coordinators and subject matter experts that help in getting this together. We can only be better in providing very good abstracts, which can move on into manuscripts. And I can tell you, as I work at the college in Ghana and in large-scale programs, I will be following up with some of you and making sure that you are able to make this come through really in the public health and development space, as it were. Again, I'm very excited, and I'll be turning it over to another facilitator in a moment. But if there is any last question, possibly, because we have about a minute or two. Again, there is a question for you, Comfort. Please, using AI in our research work, will a student be penalized for using research chatbot or Litman for doing literature review. I don't know, Prof, are you online? You might want to chime in here.
The next session will be dealing with it. The next
Yes,
session will be
the next section
Thank
will
you,
be
sir.
dealing with that. I don't also want to provide any perspectives as different universities and specialist trainings have feedback on this. But there's a common theme that I'm sure will be explored when we have the next section. So on behalf of our excellent presenters, myself and the organizers, and everybody, we want to thank you all for helping us do this, and our convener, Prof. Morenike, for making this successful. Moving on, and I'll hand over to the next facilitator.
Thank you so much, Dr. Erina Guy. We appreciate your facilitation of the abstract session. We now move to our 5-minute stretch break. We appreciate all the participants that have been with us since. Please take your 5-minute stretch break and we'll reconvene again by 3 p.m. on the dot for the next session. Thank you. Good afternoon once again, as I invite Ms. Lushikusni to please take over now. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, and thank you so much. Thank you for having me on this wonderful training and event. I'm pleased to be here. My name is Dr. Lois Kashni, and I am a research fellow at Strathmore University. I'm also a public health researcher and clinical epidemiologist. So
Volume, please. Louise, volume. Thank you.
My own volume. Can you hear me?
It's echoing. Thank you.
Is it better?
I think we can make do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I will be doing a presentation today on manuscript writing for the use of AI specifically in manuscript writing. And next, I'd like to start this training by even answering a question around AI and specifically the ethical use of AI. To just answer the question from the previous session is that it depends. So you have to look at the guidelines from each of the journals that you intend to publish with and see what their policy on AI is. But for today's conversation, we'll really be looking at the practicality and the tips and tricks and the skills that you need to develop as you use the AI tools and which ones specifically can make your research easier. And even as I begin, I'd like to start by first congratulating you for taking this, for being present for this session, because it means that you're interested in building a career in research and you're looking to grow your skills, to grow your tools. But then also to remind you that each of us has a very unique perspective that they bring to the table and that they bring to the work that they're doing that is unique and that cannot be replicated by any tools. So these tools can help to refine our thinking and to make it more streamlined or to help us, clear the clutter or see what else is available. But ultimately, the originalness of your idea is what matters the most. Your own collective set of experiences and skills and exposure, and even just your way of thinking and personality will influence how you look at research. So maybe just to start, I like to start with that as a foundational statement before I talk about AI and the use of AI tools, is just to really reassure you that your unique identity as a researcher should only be complemented by AI tools rather than having all the work be done by these tools. So we'll be discussing we'll try and understand AI tools a little bit and then how we can use them along the different parts of the writing or career or research journey. And then finally, we'll talk a little bit about ethical considerations. So could you kindly move to the next slide? So the main types of tools that are being used currently in research, and again, this continues to grow. There are up to 4,000 tools being released every day, AI tools. And out of that, I am sure maybe like 10 to 15% have something to do with knowledge management. So I will focus on some of the bigger ones now, which are GPT and Claude. One of the ones that is really rising is DeepSeek. And DeepSeek is a Chinese model that has been used very effectively and is good for logic and writing. So large language models pretty much are natural language processing. They excel at natural language processing tasks such as summarizing and writing assistance. But as of now, well, there are a lot of improvements, but it may not necessarily have domain expertise because it's trained with existing or historical data. So you cannot expect maybe like a ChatGPT or a Claude to generate new data. It will be referencing old data. We're also going to look at specialized research tools such as Semantic Scholar and Elicit, which have targeted capabilities for academic literature search and analysis. And then we're also going to look at broader data analysis tools that incorporate AI and can help with quantitative or qualitative research components. Next slide, please. So how do LLMs work? So LLMs are basically advanced pattern recognition systems. So words can be coded. So words can exist as patterns, letters, and words and sentences and paragraphs are essentially converted into codes or numbers. And then these large language models, look at these patterns and then see what are the most commonly used patterns, or rather which ones align to communicate an idea. So these models have been trained with human moderation to see what makes sense. So it doesn't do the quote unquote thinking, rather it looks at the numbers, rather or embeddings, that capture meaning and relationship to other words. And then using mathematical calculations, it processes these numbers and generates responses. So it's literally, it is, yeah, punching in numbers and having something come back to you. Yes, so that's how LLMs work broadly. Next. So when you ask a question, the model breaks down your input into pieces it can understand, then process it through neural networks that have already been preset with patterns or mm, trained models, and then it generates a response based on the patterns it learned during training. So it converts numerical calculations back into human readable text. Okay, next. So how do you use LLMs in writing? And when I talk about LLMs, I'm speaking specifically around ChatGPT and Claude and DeepSeek. So all of the ones that are, you can basically prompt the question and get a response back that doesn't necessarily have to be cited. One is to realize that your output is as good as your prompt. So having said that, I want us to get down into prompts a little bit because your prompts will influence what kind of output you get back. Next slide, please. So there are 4 types of prompts that we're going to look at, and this can be used interchangeably, really based on what you want to do. So the first type of prompt is RISE. So is where RISE is an easy one to remember. Think of your role. So you assign the model a role, then you give it an instruction, break it down into steps, and provide an example. So, for example, act as a research assistant, summarize the key arguments in this article, break it down into a main claim, supporting evidence, and limitations. Then you may use the attached structure in the second document as an example. So this approach is great for literature reviews or document analysis. Next, please. CD is context, instruction, details, and insights. So when you're prompting the model, you will say what the context is. For example, I'm writing a thesis on climate policy. Then the instruction. Summarize research on policy gaps in renewable energy with a focus on the past 5 years. So you've added a detail, you've given an instruction and added details. Then highlight key findings and resolved issues and potential areas for further research. So this CD gives breadth, both breadth and targeted insights. It's the fact that you're creating your own context. Helps the LLM rather to have boundaries within which to share the response, so then the responses become more targeted and richer. Next, please. PQRF, which is problem, question, role, and format. So this is ideal for turning data into clear action points and can be useful either within your research journey or within your writing journey. So for example, the example is our specialty medications are expiring before use, especially in oncology, causing losses and treatment delays. Could you provide recommendations for inventory tracking, ordering, and storage? And then the role, I'm the hospital pharmacist and would like a strategy for the next quarter. Next. This next one is called TACS, TACS. So the topic, audience, constraints, and specificity. So for the example, you say the topic, drafting a methodology section on survey data, analysis for social science thesis, make it suitable for a professional audience within 200 words, and use subheadings for clarity. So this is very specific. So this approach is great for building sections that need structure and brevity. So maybe if you want to expound on your structure or on a write-up, you can use this approach or this prompt to build up that section. Next. Spec is the last one, specificity, purpose, examples, and constraints. So with this one, you're very specific. It's probably an action. So you want a very concise answer. So this could be used possibly for maybe you want to generate recommendations or you want to generate an approach, specific approach. So generate a discussion action on the impact of social media on mental health, focusing on quantitative studies. Aim for a balanced view, keeping one pro and one con, and keep it under 500 words. So adding this element of constraints also helps to keep the responses concise. Next. Okay, so we've talked broadly around using LLMs, and I think maybe just to emphasize again, LLMs help to give you structure to your work, or even you can feed it your data and say, based on this data, what are some of the gaps that you see from a broad perspective? So it's important for giving a big picture view, but will not give you like the nitty gritties. And again, like we said, it doesn't generate new evidence. So this is where we get to the next part, which is AI-powered search engines. So if you want to look at specific work that has already been done and relate it to the work that you're currently doing, you now move on to AI-powered search engines. And we're going to explore 5 today. We might not explore all of them in depth, just because of the constraints of time. And yes, happy to share the presentation in PDF format. So this helps to identify gaps in literature. So how much work has been done already in the area that you're seeking to study, or in the area that you're seeking to do research in, and then it provides the context for your work. So just understanding what has been done, what backgrounds, what methodologies, this is what it's helpful for. So in this presentation, we'll explore 5. I'll just go to the next slide, start with consensus. Next slide, please. Consensus. So consensus.app is a very, let me say, neat way of testing your ideas. So with consensus.app, you can ask a very specific question. So for example, what influences levels of chlorophyll in leaves in indigenous plants, for example. And it will give you a concise answer, or rather a broad set of answers, but then with different levels of supporting evidence, including where the evidence was derived from and the level of trustability, would you say trustability, or rather of the level of the journal, how rigorous the journal is, and then you can chat with the paper and ask very specific questions as follow-ons. Next question, next please. So again, more broadly, it gives a consensus, a general opinion. So for example, does immigration increase unemployment? Then you get a consensus meter, quote unquote. So yes, possibly, and then you can explore each of these questions, each of these answers. So under yes, you will have the papers that say yes. Under no, you'll have the papers that say no. Under possibly, you'll have the papers that say possibly. So it helps you to start from somewhere. Basically, it helps you to have a big idea of where to start with your literature review. Next. Evidence Hunt, I have found Evidence Hunt is linked to PubMed, so is linked to a much bigger database and gives a lot more work to review. It doesn't do the summaries per se, because there's different elements explored in each of the different papers, but it does also give you more technical. It moves from the basic yes or no to the more technical yes and, or yes if, or no if, or no maybe. Yeah, so it's a bit more detailed. Next. It also gives a PICO analysis, so it tells you the population that the work was done in, the intervention, the control, or the comparison, and then the outcome. And this is it's used as a framework in a lot of research to formulate a research question and to again facilitate literature review. Next. So Site AI is a search engine that I would say brings together different data points or draws different sources and creates a narrative. So it's a very rich it's a very rich source of work. But again, I would like to say that the fallacy here is that AI can do your work. At this point, again, want to emphasize that even though these tools can be very helpful, can really expound the amount of work we can be able to do in a short amount of time, your unique perspectives are key to improving the body of knowledge or adding to the body of knowledge. So just to emphasize again as we go along, and it's something I'll keep reminding you and that you should remind yourself as you look at AI, is that you have your own intelligence and point of view that is very valuable even as you use these tools. So kind of it's almost like a view it, not to take it with a pinch of salt per se, but rather to take it with a level of not skepticism, but some critical thinking to see, yes, and where do I fit in? Where does my work fit in this larger picture, as opposed to, oh, perfect, it has summarized everything for me and it's perfect, I'm done, this is wonderful. So just to think about how your own perspective now fits into all of this. Next, please. Thank you. So maybe perplexity should have come a little bit earlier because it's a much broader search engine that looks at sources across the web. So not just journals, but also, web pages and gray literature, anything that's published on the web. Basically, it will give you up to 25 sources for the questions that you've asked. So if we were to look at it as a funnel, it should probably be Perplexity AI and then consensus, and then you now narrow down into the more technical tools that reference the more technical papers like Evidence Hunt and then later Cite AI. Next, please. Okay, so scholarAI.io, and I think now we are going over into the beyond the literature search and trying to contextualize your paper. You have data, how do you contextualize it? And this is one of the ways you can even analyze your data, including analyzing qualitative work. It can do a systematic review for you, or can support a systematic review. So scholarAI.io is also a good tool. Next, please. When you're mapping the papers, I want to share 3 tools that are helpful for mapping papers and ensuring that you're kind of demonstrating the relationship or the evolution in the particular field of research that you're exploring. One is Research Rabbit, which is fantastic because it's free and remains free. And in fact, the promise on their website is that we will be free forever, which is great as a promise. Then there's Connected Papers and Insightful. So next, can explore all of this a little bit. Next slide, thank you. So Research Rabbit connects papers as part of scholarly work and can be filtered by timeline. So you can say, I'm looking at papers between maybe in the past 10 years, past 20 years. Again, it also integrates with Zotero to help manage your references. And lastly, it allows you to add notes against the paper that can then be transferred to MS Word. So Research Rabbit is a great tool, and that the size of the dot, as you will see here, relates to the impact of the paper. So you can visually look and see which ones you want to focus on, if you want to only cite high impact papers, or even just to map the years. So it's visual in that way, helping you to just chart the evolution of whatever research topic you're exploring. Next, please. Connected Papers is very similar to Research Rabbit. I think it's just a usability thing. Depends on what kind of plugins you want to use for your references. They work with different plugins. Sorry, Connected will work better with Mendeley as well, and Research Rabbit will work better with Zotero. But there are, it's a usability issue. So you can decide which one to choose. Yeah, next please. So this is a little bit how it looks, very similar to Research Rabbit, but then it has the added advantage of Insightful, has the added advantage of it gives you a similarity index. So whereas Research Rabbit will give you, okay, these are the papers that are connected to it, you might not know what the level of similarity may be, but Insightful as a tool can help you understand how similar the papers are so that you can narrow down to the ones that are most similar, or if you're exploring many things, maybe if you're making a conceptual framework, you can look at things that are not that similar but might be related. Next, please. Scholarly is now, you have your papers, you know the relationship, you have a good idea or a good understanding of the evolution of the research, and now you kind of want to drill down into some of these papers. Scholarly.com is a tool that helps you to interact with the articles, so you can review many articles at a time as opposed to having to read through, hundreds or thousands, even sometimes depending on the type of work you're doing, of articles. Next, please. Okay, so at this point, in my mind's eye, you've decided on your idea, you've kind of refined it, you've understood where to contextualize your paper, you have a conceptual framework or thematic framework that you're going to use. Now you have your data and you want to understand how to analyze it. Ideally, you should have a statistician if you do not have those skills at hand, but sometimes you do not have a statistician at hand. And here's where Julius.ai comes in. Julius is very useful because it cleans the data for you. It also analyzes it. It does the significance, the statistics, the testing. It uses both either R or Python, and you can choose which of the two you want to use. It does graphs, it does tables, it does figures. So it's the statistician that every researcher needs. Ideally, you should also have another statistician look at it, because if you're acknowledging the use of AI in your work, some journals will require that you also had another statistician go through it to make sure that it was kosher. But this is actually a very good tool, especially if you are a researcher who's not necessarily like a career researcher, but in your work, you have access to a lot of data and you don't have maybe the bandwidth or time to hire a statistician and do this work. This can help you run your data and understand how, what patterns might be unique or might be worth exploring or publishing about or researching on. We've also used it successfully with like antimicrobial testing and genetic testing. So its use cases are quite big. I'm quite excited about Julius. It can be you get a few free workouts, not workouts, but tryouts, and then after a while you have to pay, I think, $20 a month if it's not changed, if I'm not wrong. So, but it does, yeah. Next. Okay, so ideally, you've kind of switched back and forth between the different AI tools, the different AI usability, just to support your research journey. And then you've hopefully published, like we said, you've gone back and you've done your analysis, you've done your writing. One of the ways you can stay up to date is R Discovery, and this is linked to Audible, but keeps you updated on everything that is happening in your field. So you sign up and you put in what field of research you're interested in, and it basically alerts you every time there's work that aligns with either what you're doing or what you want to do or what you're interested in. Next, please. Okay, for writing, which is your work is only as good as it is understandable. So there are different companions. So I saw that somebody asked about plagiarism, whether this puts you at risk of plagiarism. So this is why these writing companions are helpful. So companions such as Quillbot or Paperpal can help to detect any plagiarism, places where you might have used whether somewhere where the words might have been exactly like, whether you didn't paraphrase or you didn't properly attribute. So this is another tool that can help you prevent yourself from inadvertently plagiarizing somebody else's work. Thank you. Next. So I think as a conclusion, I'd like to say that the way research is happening, or the way that we can do it, has really been revolutionized by the use of AI. And I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. It doesn't diminish from a hardworking researcher. I think it gives access to more work. It prevents duplication. So if you know that your work has been inadvertently, completely been negated, then there's no point of investing your time or energy to kind of beat a dead horse. It helps to contextualize work. It also, shortens the writing process. It helps to crystallize thinking. But again, back to the cornerstone, which is that thinking cannot be outsourced. Remember that these are words converted to numbers, aligned to patterns, processed back to words, and then displayed on your screen. So the thinking does not happen. There's no point at which any thinking happens, and the thinking is entirely the job of the researcher. And this can absolutely not be outsourced ever. And even if it was, it would be soulless and pointless. So that's one thing. Another thing is that it can be quite expensive, depending on the tools that you use. So you kind of have to be careful. My advice to any researcher who wants to use AI is use many things, use many tools, and then decide which ones work for you, which ones you want to pay for. Sometimes you might finish your work without needing to have paid for any, because you've been able to use the free resources. You've exhausted all the resources and been able to get what you need done. Yeah, I think that's it from me. I can take questions now. I see there's quite a number of questions, so happy to take them now.
Thank you so much, Liz. The questions are in your box, or do you want me to read them for you?
Okay, like in my chat or in my Q&A?
Let me say, please read. Let me say, please read them.
Okay, I'll be reading from the rear. Sorry, I'm trying to compile everything before now, so I'll read now.
It's okay. Some of them I've answered, so then I won't answer. So, for example, about free, some are free for the first couple of uses, and then afterwards you have to pay. Will a student be penalized for using Research Rabbit or Litmax? No, ideally no. It just helps you to find the papers that you need to cite or in order of importance, so that should not be penalized. Won't it raise the AI score when the paper is put through AI check tools? Yes, it will raise it. In fact, the detection of AI is completely is very thorough, and the point is not to try and cheat that you did not use AI. I think AI should help you think, but it should not be the one doing the writing for you. And I think also another way is that once you run your tools, once you run your paper, if you copy pasted, huge chunks of text from AI, rather than rephrasing them, humanizing it, then your paper will definitely be flagged for AI use. So the point is not to have, to have AI do the work for you and then you copy paste. If you do copy paste it because you feel there's nothing to correct on this, then you have to acknowledge that I've used AI and this is the similarity index. Or you can say I used AI, but the prompts were mine. They were original prompts with original thoughts and original data, because essentially it was original data that you used. Then it's not per se AI generated. That was your data that you fed into the computer. But my advice is also not to copy paste chunks of data, because it also again outsources the thinking, which is not what you want to do.
Another question here is, at what percentage of AI detected content would the research be considered as AI generated rather than human written?
You know what's so interesting is that because these models were trained in Kenya, in Nigeria, these AI models were trained in these two countries, especially ChatGPT, which was the first one. OpenAI was the first LLM kind of on the scene. So, because we were colonized by the British, our English is exemplary, and because our education systems still continue to teach very high level, thinking and English. So some people, especially from the global south, have been penalized for having AI work when it was not written by AI, simply because we will use words like robust in normal language, which has now become an AI word, quote unquote. So I find it difficult to answer that, because I know that there are people who have been penalized for using AI work, for using AI in their work, and yet they had written it themselves. And this is because of where these models were trained. So it's a bit of that one is 50-50. But again, like I said, do not copy paste, rewrite the work. As you rewrite it, it helps you to also think it through to see whether it makes sense, doesn't make sense for you, given what you know. Would AI use your information and open you to risk of others taking and using your information even before you publish your work? Yes and no. It will use your information, especially if you feed it your information, but it's not attributable. The same way for large language models, the work is not attributable. So it doesn't, when you publish it, it will not be, oh, we already saw it in an AI model. No, not necessarily. It's not, because it's not attributable. Okay.
So another question reads that which of the AI tool will you recommend that is more reliable?
Like I said, it's very important to just use all of them, see what works for you, because again, our writing styles, the kind of work we're doing is very different. So my thought is try all of them and see what works for you, what works for your style, what works for the type of research you're doing. Some tools are better for qualitative work, others are better for quantitative work. So, and then there's mixed work. So my suggestion is explore as many tools, find what works for you, what's your sweet spot, and yeah, and then again, kind of keep checking, keep updating your own AI knowledge. Yeah.
Mr. Joseph is trying to ask if AI tools are allowed in scientific writing, or are they all considered plagiarism too?
Yeah, so I would say again to check to refer to the editorial notes. So like Elsevier has an AI policy. A lot of the journals now have policies on AI. So check with the journal you'd like to publish in and see what is the allowable content of AI generated percentage. AI generated percentages are allowable, and what their policies are around attribution, etc., etc. But ideally, you should attribute, especially if you used it for a big chunk of your work.
Lots of people are throwing you accolades here. Wonderful presentation. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We do appreciate your presentation. I think we've covered all the questions raised here.
Okay. There's a question here around, can Turnitin detect AI? Yes, it can. How to avoid fake references generated by AI. I think again it goes back to which of the tools are you using. So a lot of them, especially the ones I've shared, have a reference, have a link to the reference that they've cited. So actually click on the link, confirm that it is listed on PubMed. Just confirm on the sources so that you are sure that, yeah, so you're sure that the links exist. Is it allowed to write the whole paper with AI powered tools? I mean, it depends on the policy. It's allowable and acceptable are not the same. So again, just to encourage you as researchers that what AI has made clear is that information can actually, like, to put it in this in the simplest way, information can literally be gibberish, because if the same words were fed into this model, they would come back as gibberish. So what it has made extremely clear is that human intelligence is very important in research, because if it was just about putting together a line of words, or a line of sentences and paragraphs to communicate powerful ideas, then we can just outsource everything to AI. But it's the human intervention of prompting, questioning, doing the research, speaking to people in the field, talking to other people and learning from their experiences. That is actually where the true value lies, not in the tools. So remember, these are tools. In the same way, a paintbrush is only as good as a painter. So think of AI as a paintbrush and researchers as the painters, and realize that it is not to, leave the paintbrush to paint on its own, but rather to apply your own thinking as you wield these tools. Drug design support, yes, that's a very broad topic, but you can find drug design support a lot. There's a question here on how to find ideas of meta-analysis by AI tool. So even just to, even just based on the questions, can I just say your prompts? You see, no one can read what is in your mind, including the AI tools. So your prompts they have to be rich. It's garbage in, garbage out in the most literal sense ever. The more detailed, the better your outputs. The more specific, the more targeted. So I would almost recommend that it's very important before you sit down with any tool, even before you sit in front of PubMed, is to sit down with a pen and paper and capture what the soul of your work is looking at. Because then it's very easy to get caught up in many, many other things that come up in these tools. So, yeah. Is there another question? I don't see any here. Are there any AI tools for synthetic chemistry? I'm pretty sure there are. There are synthetic tools there are tools for synthetic chemistry. I may not know them, but I'm sure there are. There's a is it a site that looks at, you can search for AI. So I think it's called Search AI or something like that. But if you look online, there should be tools. Some websites can humanize. Do they really humanize? No, they don't humanize. And those websites, I would really advise that you do not use the websites that promise to humanize text. A lot of times they do not. Okay, another question. Yeah. Plagiarism picks articles posted on preprint and therefore make it difficult for publication in some journals because it should be picked as plagiarism. What can one do to ensure preprint articles are published? So I don't really understand the question. Or is it, if you mean that you've used, your article has been put as preprint?
The
I think if you
anonymous is trying to ask what can you do to ensure a preprint articles are published? That most time preprint articles are found as by plagiarism check, so they are prevented from being published. So what can we do to ensure preprint articles are published?
Yeah, so if it's preprint, okay, my advice would be to not use publicly available work. So maybe Grammarly, and there's also like a free version if you're going to use an AI tool to like refine the work. But if it's preprint, I mean, there's not much change that will happen. So why would you run it through an AI tool? I don't know. I'm wondering what the use case would be. But my advice would then be to use it or not on non-public means, or to if you're editing it, is to do it in sections rather than the whole document. There is a question here that was around can you reference? Yes, you should reference the message. You should reference that if you've used AI in your work. If you draft a paragraph and feed it into AI to refine it, will this be detected as AI generated? Yes, it will be. And you can acknowledge it in advance and say that you did the initial draft and then you refined it using AI tools. I want to use AI in writing articles, but I'm afraid of it. What advice can you offer? Like I said, I would start by putting my ideas on paper so that what I am adding is of value and not replicating something else that is on the internet. Is it okay to copy and paste and paraphrase using Killbot? Can we still detect it as AI generated? Yes, Turnitin will detect it as AI generated. So Killbot is still an AI tool. What I will say also, I found, and this is not a way to escape plagiarism. I'm not recommending it in any way, shape, or form. But if you copy paste, it is detected as AI. But if you type out what is on the screen, it is not generated. Now, that's not necessarily to mean that it's, this is how you should go about it per se, but it's that sense of patterning and repeated patterns that make it detectable. So that's why I'm saying it's better to, rather than copy paste, to write it out. But then because it also gives you an opportunity to think through what you're writing, and you'll almost always have something of value to add. Yeah. Okay, I don't see any more questions.
Thank you so much, Ms. Liz. We do appreciate your contribution. Thank you so much. On this note, we will be rounding up our 3-day, first of its kind, African Voices for research. And we've made this happen. We are writing history. Thank you for staying with us, and we do appreciate you. I'm going to give a very brief recap of what we've done in the past 3 days. For the first day, we were able to go through research conduct for nation building, and we had a lot of our questions being answered, and we were taught on our skills for developing South-South collaboration and not relying so much on being at the receiving end. A lot of questions were raised on that day, which were addressed. We were also given the opportunity to talk about the ability for us as young researchers to actually put intelligence to our work and be able to collaborate within South-South and not give excuses of no fund that we are used to. Day 2, we started with tackling gender sensitivity and in research conduct, and we were taught on different ways that we could actually remove gender sensitivity in our questionnaire and in the way we write, so that we have a comprehensive look at what result is it that we are producing. And our abstract session focused on the women and children's health issues. We saw different studies being ongoing in addressing maternal mortality at Yobe all the way to the South-South, and another research in that area, focusing on SAME, addressing women and children health issues. We also had the opportunity to go through different means of improving the visibility of our research. And I'm bold to say that I was able to register on Conference Africa yesterday. And I hope we are all putting this into practice. Today, we had a very interesting session on decolonizing our research, ensuring that we put intellectual property. We should be able to put our intellectual contribution into whatever research we are conducting. Even when we have outside donors, we should not just take it raw as hook and sinker. We should negotiate on the table of equity. We should be open with grantsmanship. Don't hide anything as any career researcher. Seek instruction, seek counseling for people that had gone ahead, and utilize your institution capacity. You can always negotiate from the institution perspective and not from your individual person. Intellectual property in protocols should be well written and ensure that you get what it is to put into the research. We should also go and get familiar with Nigeria transfer agreements. Thus, we'll be able to have a say with whatever data we are able to generate. Then we move on to usage of AI tools in our research. And the summary of it is that artificial intelligence can never and will never replace human intelligence, which is very important. No matter how versatile we are in the use of all these AI tools, we should please put human face to our work. On this note, I'm going to invite Dr. Kudos to please give us the information that we all need to make use of all the resources we have generated in the past 3 days. Thank you. I remain Dr. Oluwayemisi Olagunju.
Thank you, Dr. Oluwayemisi, for that beautiful recap. Mine is just to acknowledge and thank everyone for being a part of this epoch session. I mean, one conference that is unique from others. I'll start by appreciating all of us that participated in this conference, over 370 present on this call already. It shows how impactful and how interesting it is for 370 people to stay put to this time. Thank you very much for being a part of this. 3 days with you has been amazing. You've been very engaging, you've been a very engaging audience. Because without you, this conference wouldn't have also. It's a thumbs up to everyone for being a part of this. We thank our presenters, our abstract presenters, our keynote speakers from day 1, day 2, and day 3, our skill transfer speakers from day 1, day 2, and 3, as well as the abstract presenter. You've made this conference a remarkable one, a lot of learning points for all of us. And to all facilitators, Doshima, Oluwayemisi, and of course myself, it's a thank you for all you've done. I mean, you've done a lot to make this a success. I can't end this without appreciating our sponsors as partners. I'll start with the Society for AIDS in Africa, who have been the secretariat for this conference. You all agree with me that they've done a marvelous job in ensuring that we all have a very remarkable conference. We also have support from the Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, who have been a great support, and we have speakers from that university. Thank you very much. We appreciate your support. We have support from Aegis. We had support from excuse me. We have support from sorry, I missed that. I'm going to come back to that. So more importantly, I mean, you all know what has come into this, and the driver, the person behind the success story, no doubt we all know, is Professor Morenike Folayan, who has been both in front and
at the back end, ensuring that everything works and works well. If your hand is not too busy, you can use your electronic keys to show accolades to what she has done. It has been a remarkable one. Thank you very much, Ma, for that, for putting us together and ensuring that we deliver something so amazing as this. There have been a lot of calls about evaluation and all of that. The Secretariat is handling that, and they're going to share the evaluation form very shortly so that you can get it filled, and certificates and communication will be done through the register email. For those sending links, email, requesting for materials, for the speakers who give us permission to share their materials, we are going to share it to you through your register email. So there is no need to share email other than maybe for networking purpose. We also will communicate with us about certificate through our register email for those who qualify to have certificate. Please stay on the call and follow the prompt once the evaluation link is shared. We'll leave the call open so that you can get it answered. We've also shared some important materials, the link to the conference book program, through which you can get emails of all the presenters if you need to communicate and network with them based on the work they've done. You also have a link to our manuscript writing hub, which is a hub where we discuss manuscript writing and share insightful knowledge about how to write manuscripts and information about manuscript writing. We also have the research advert hub, which gives you a variety of information about scholarly opportunities such as scholarship, fellowship, and all have you, that helps you to connect with important information. All of these have been shared through the chat box. So I'll be giving back to you 5 minutes of your time, of your day. So please ensure you fill the evaluation form before you log out of the page. Thank you very much for being an amazing audience. So you have the evaluation form displayed already on the screen.
The evaluation link has been shared almost 10 times in the chat box. Just
on the
I
chat
mean, just
box too.
follow.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Put it there, but it's been shared over 10 times. If you want to
Okay.
see, just go back. It's there. Every link that has been shared in the last 3 days is shared. So asking for an evaluation link means you're not reading through your stuff. It's there. Please go back to mails and check it. Thank you for being part of it. Have a good day.
Thank you, Prof. All right, so on behalf of the Manuscript Writing Hub, Obafemi Awolowo University, AfriScience Network, Chi-Square, Society for AIDS in Africa, and AGES, that's Academic and Grant Writing Enclave. I wish you a very lovely day and see you soon. Please ensure you join our platform to get more information. Thank you. And over from me. Thanks very much.